we got our name. Alamo is nothing but it's actually a cottonwood tree. So cottonwood in Spanish will be Alamo. So the Alamo was nested among cottonwood trees. And the soldiers or the Mexicans or the national, they will call it Los Alamos. That where the fort was. And so that's why it got the name Alamo. And same thing in Alamo. It was just, there were rows and rows of cottonwood trees, and they called it Alamo Track. So when they purchased the acreage, they decided to keep, when they built the township, decided to keep the name Alamo from the tree again. So it's after a tree. It's not after any city or anything like that. So that's, and Alamo was founded in 1924. And from 1902 to 1924, it was, they purchased 32,000 acres of land. They plan of doing like a sugar industry there, but the water that the river carried wasn't that much. It's closer.
It's this one. It's wing sound. Let's get a little closer to your face.
Can you? Is that better?
How about now?
That better? Okay. So they were planning to start a sugar industry, but it didn't work out because there was not much water in the river, and you have to know that we're at the river's end. It starts in the Rocky Mountains. By the time it reaches to the valley, there's very little water. So they decided to, okay, not a good idea. So let's just sell the land and do farmland instead. So they began to sell. They invited people from up north, and there were invitations all over the newspapers, and so the land buyers came to Alamo, and they started to buy farmland or plots to farm, and they used very different ways to attract the buyers and have them develop the area. So this is part of the announcements that were taken over, that were in the newspapers, inviting people to come over to Alamo. There's one person that is not mentioned very much in our history or in our town. I mean, I don't see any streets or anything named after. And this is Carroll B. Schumacher. He was from 1895 to 1982. He was a visionary. He was he was a city clerk, tax assessor, and collector, and more than that, he was a volunteer fire chief. He was the very first one who thought or coined with the idea of getting a fire department for the city, because there was none there, and it was one of the other reasons that he says we need a fire department, because there were very few buildings in Alamo, and one was a hotel. And when it caught on fire, the San Juan Fire Department came to put it out, but the connections didn't match the hydrants in Alamo, so they couldn't connect to any source of water, and it just burned down. So after that, the city commission decided, okay, let's do a volunteer fire department. Not only that, he wrote the story of Alamo as he witnessed it. So we have a book coming up, and we use part of his work in that book to introduce the city of Alamo. And we're very fortunate that he did, because we get to hear from the pioneers. And this is the area where he says how did the name came about. And I already told you that. City of Alamo is a small town. We call it a first gear town. When you shift to second, you're already past it. It's very small. It's about 3 miles side to side. And but most of the cities in the valley are that way. And now on the there is one thing that is interesting. Some of these farms began to take over in the on the south of Alamo, and they were there were several growers like Frank Mueller, Max, Carol G. Brown, Schuster, Frank Schuster, Carol Schuster, Morin, Ford, and all of them they developed these areas, and that name, that area where all these farms were was a land grant called Agostadero del Gato, which means the land where the cats roam, and not kitty cats. I mean, it really wild cats. At least there were at least 4 different species of wild cats in Alamo, which at least no, 2 or 3 of them they're still roaming in Alamo. Bobcats, ocelots, and I believe talking to Dr. Martin Salinas, who wrote about the Indians of Texas, he said the last puma or cougar was killed in 1974 in Alamo. So that's why it was called Agostadero del Alamo, or the land where the cats roam. And but for short, everybody calls it El Gato. And then I'm gonna try and go through this because I think what you wanna see is actually we wanna hear about the Karankawas. And okay, this is El Gato, and El Gato, Texas, and this area right here. It's what this is Alamo right here. Los Toritos, Santana, and Agostadero del Gato. All of this is Alamo right here. Our present day is just some area right here, and the rest is county. But this comes to play because when we started the museum, there was no museum there. There was nothing. And then when I heard that they wanted to create a museum, having worked in a museum before, it was an art museum. I raised my hand and I say, I want to be part of this museum. So I became a volunteer curator. And the reason I chose to be the curator was because all the important documents that the city had were uh, were housed in a cinder block building that was full of silverfish, bugs, dust, light. It was destroying the whole collection. Whatever they had, it was important. I said, these documents that you have are very important, and you're not gonna be able to see them again if we don't protect them. So that's why they say, okay, you take care of that, and I became the volunteer curator, which I like it, and I said I'm gonna do that, and I did that for 2 years. So one of the things that caught my attention, it was El Gato again, and I said, what's El Gato? So I started to doing some more research about El Gato, and I went to South Alamo, hoping to find El Gato, and I did. The only thing is, there were no neon signs that say, "Here is El Gato, right here, right there. Welcome." Nothing. So, what's El Gato then? And then it was El Rancho del Gato, the ranch of the cat. So I went to all the uh, registry and finding in the appraisal district, trying to find that, and I couldn't find any Rancho del Gato. So anyway, it was just a nickname, and so I just couldn't find anything. But one thing that it was important is that lake that was inside of El Gato. There was so many stories, and one was the Bailly family, which is historical also. And I had a dear friend who passed away, and we did the research on that. Turns out that the lake that you see there, this was used for bootlegging. They will during the Prohibition era, 1930s. They will bring all kinds of liquor and put them in milk jugs with rope and dip them inside the lake. So when the rangers came, they couldn't find anything. They leave, and after they left, they just pull the cord and pull everything out and take them up north. And then that's when he said, "You should talk to Henry." And I say, "What about Henry?" He says, "He's a Karankawa." And I say, "Okay, what's a Karankawa?" And he says, "Oh, he should tell you they were Native Americans and blah, blah, blah." I say, "Okay, well, let me talk to him." So I invited him several times, and finally he showed up one time. And he says, "No." I said, "Why you say you're a Karankawa?" And he told me why. And I said, "Okay, well, I'll believe you." So one of the things, the stories that he told me was, if over in this lake, I used to see mitotes. My father used to take me to the mitotes there. And I said, "Okay." And then I find out what a mitote was, and I said, "Okay, good." So then we began to form a friendship and say, "Okay, let's continue to uh, mitote right here, ceremonial gathering, and over there is the bootleggers, and this is the lake, and this is Rogelio Valle, who he helped me do all this research." So anyway, so we started. We began. He began to talk to me about the story of the Karankawas, and well, when I was at the museum in McAllen, I took one of those aptitude tests, and I scored researcher, and the curator back there, he tested me. He says, "Oh, so you're a researcher, okay? You're gonna help me find if this belongs to us." And I said, "What?" Mojigangas, which are body puppets, and they're about this tall, and you can put them on your shoulders, and you can go to parades with them. And he says, "They take too much space. If they don't belong to collections, I can get rid of them. But if they belong to collections, I have to find a spot for them." He says, "So here's my collection book, find it." The collection book, I kid you not, is about this thick. And he says, "Find it." So I took me about a couple of days, but I found it, and I said, "Hey, here you go." They were donated by these people, and it has an accession number and everything. And he say, "Darn it." So that's how I like doing research. So what everything that he told me about the Karanka was about his story, began to check out. He says, "Okay, the Indian, the Karanka were here, were hired by the Blue Goose Company. So, and then they were taken to California. Okay, I researched, found the company, and yes, they were from California, and they work in the valley, and then they moved back." So whatever he was saying, it was kind of making sense. And then, so he said also mentioned about that the his family was from Mier, and I say, okay, so we were doing some more research, and we find out that the Karankawas were coming from Refugio to Monterrey, and that was the path. And I said, okay, well, so everything that he said was kind of connecting. So finally, and this is where I'll have him continue that. I just needed an introduction of what he's gonna speak about. So, okay, this is one of the things that I had to struggle with when I started doing the research. Is this maps right here? I love the way they do the political boundaries. So Coahuilteco, Carrizo tribes and the Karankawa, they had these boundaries. And I say, I don't think they care about the boundaries. I think they went wherever they want, you know? Same thing here, Karankawa territory, and it stops right in the river. So I started going further back and going to Mexico, and I met Martin Salinas, and he's been doing research on the Karankawas. And then I came across a lot of researchers and book authors who wrote about the Karankawas and Texan Indians in Mexico and all of what they did. And I mean, Sertuche, Ernesto Sertuche González, Lampazos, mi hidalga tierra. Lampazos is my hidalga land. So he wrote extensively, and he says a very detailed account on how many horses were stolen, how many women were kidnapped, and how many cattle was also stolen, and all of that, and where the tribes were coming from, or where the groups were coming from. So it was very detailed account. So in this case, Jose Nicolás Bahí, in this area right here, Rogelio Bahí, in his family history, he says the he says that was my great great uncle, Father Bahí, and we know that he protected the Karankawas in the island, and he had with them, and they were helping him build a church, but the diocese was in Saltillo. So what he did, he every time he went to Saltillo, he'll take the Karankawas with him. And the bishop over there, when he saw the Karankawas, he says, "You want to trade? I'll give you my Tlaxcaltecas, which are shorter, but they were builders. They can help you build your temple, and you can leave the Karankawas here so they can protect us because they were taller." So that's part of some. That's one of the reasons that the Karankawas ended up going all the way further than the Monterrey, Saltillo, and so that's that's the journey that we have taken, and that didn't never stop. Well, actually, there was a point where Enrique said, "Okay, I'm happy, I'm content." And one of the reasons that he was already happy was because we did a symposium in Alamo with Carol, who's here, Carol Scoggin. She's the president of South Texas Historical Association. And she invited him to speak at the symposium. And when she says, when I told everybody that what the symposium was going to be about, everybody asked, "Is he tall?" And she says, "Yes." And then there was a lot of interest about hearing about the Karankawas. So after that symposium, he felt vindicated and valued and recognized, and he gave him more stamina to continue with his journey. And then we've received help from others like Professor Marie Theresa Hernandez. She's from the University of Houston. She's doing research on Juan Nepomuceno Cortina, who was the Robin Hood of the Rio Grande Valley. Depending on which side you read his stories, he was either the bandit or he was either a hero. So she's writing about him, and then she came across a piece of an article from the Dallas Morning News or Dallas Herald, 1858. And in that article says that Juan Nepomuceno Cortina has gathered Posey to go after the Karankawas, because the Karankawas were attacking ranches, and they were doing what they usually do. So they decided to go and stop them. So they finally caught on to them, and they say that they left Mexico. That's in the article. They left Mexico because they didn't want to be oppressed by the Mexican soldiers, and they didn't want to be oppressed by the U.S. soldiers either. So they came to join the Lipan Apaches in order to, put a front together to fight against them. But in that article says the Posey by Cortina killed the 9 last warriors. of the Karankawas. But then on the bottom says the women and the children were distributed among ranches or rancherias in that area. And to us, that said everything. That says, so where's the total annihilation? It didn't happen. So where's the extermination? Never happened. Those kids grew up. That their genes continue. The ladies remarried, and they had more children. So the lineage continue. And so that's that's what kept us in this journey. So now you're gonna hear from Enrique. He has taken upon himself to go and continue almost on his own this journey of discovery, and he'll tell.
I go by 3 names. My parents gave me the name Enrique. All my friends in high school call me Henry, Mexican and Anglo. I'm a government man, like no other government man. And I go by Rick. So I have 3 names. I'm a descendant of the Karankawas. Ever since I was a child, I knew I was different. I knew it. It wasn't until a man came into my life. His name was Carol Given Brown. We're going to show his name. And he requested some documents from my mother. And my mother took them. What this good man was doing, he was filling Social Security papers for my grandmother, and my grandfather, my paternal side. And it came to Angelita, my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, and he said, Angelita is a Karankawa. They're in Mexico. They're very tall people. I found my identity. And now I can prove everybody, I'm going to go to the newspapers, I can prove that this man here is a direct descendant of that tribe. And there is proof. I will show it. Also, this presentation should have been done in Goliad, because I went to a presentation there and people swamped all around me. These missions were built for the Karankawa. I said, no. The one in Refugio. And I based my comment on that on my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, mentioned the name Refugio. Yet I didn't know the content of the conversations that would happen. I just based that on my grandfather, which is a Karankawa, name in the town of Refugio. So this is Texas on top. This is the Rio Grande. That's what we're concerned, just the top. This is Mexico. Next slide. This is what was puzzling to me. As a child, I heard all the people, various tribes, Mexicans, talking that tall people are in Monterrey, Mexico. That's where they are. And when I met Mr. Oyoque, I told him that they are in Monterrey. He started doing research, and here's what we come up with. Right up here is Goliad, and this trail leads all the way to Mier. And this is what gave me a lot of trouble and took so many years to do. But it dies in Cerralbo. It's supposed to go to Monterrey, which is over here. So with that information, I can present a case. But it's there, right here is Camino de la Bahia. This is the churches way up here. So they're providing supplies to it, but I don't know from where. Next one. I know 2 histories. I know the Spanish history, and I know the German history. Okay? Those people are not from this land. And the Indians in there talked a lot about both of them. And I'm familiar with this case right here. Right here. Since I was a child, I known about that. Because my Spanish grandfather, by the way, my paternal grandfather was white. He, like anybody in the crowd here. The only thing, he came from Spain. He didn't come from other parts of Europe. And he would talk to my mother. He was in error. This man had 2 daughters. He'd married into, is that mine? He married into it. So he would talk. This man right here, everybody talked about him. The Texas Rangers supposedly, or the Germans came in one night and started shooting up his place. They want him out of there. They want their land. 2 stories are, one, that his family got hurt or shot. Another says that it was people who asked her permission to spend the night there in way to Reynosa. It's not that far. But he moved into Mexico. This letter is a letter of a man that came from California, and he went into Mexico, found the man, Juan Jose Treviño, paid money, had a deed made in Matamoros to American standards. He went and signed it and came back and tried to register it, and they would not let him because he was not from there. This is the man that came into my life, Carol Given Brown. In the 5th grade, he picked me up, took me to the courthouse. Last time we went to the courthouse was I returned from Vietnam. He wanted to go look for lost land. And I accompanied him. It was 1925. It says that this man that's coming to file that claim for that land is not from here. But they don't take into consideration that he went to get the owner, pay for it. While in the government, I found a lead to this. And he belonged to a man they used to call Blackie. He was German. He killed some Mexicans. Did not pay a price. Didn't go to court. So they let him go, and he went to California. He starts telling in San Francisco all these people about all this land that's up for grabs. So Mr. Bartels sent a representative to buy the land. The land was legally the man from California because he paid for it. Next. This is what the Germans did. No Indian could cross. On the other map, the Indians would cross the river. No Indian could cross there. You will get hurt if you did. You will get hurt. The only thing about this, it became a plus. They farmed the land. People had jobs. There was a new life in town. And El Gato came to life. El Gato's right here where this X is. And this is a reservoir. The river's right here. And right through here, they used to take mezcal, Mexican whiskey. That brought a new life to that area. Everybody would go there. All the Indian tribes that came from Oklahoma to do their rituals in the area would go back with gallon jugs. That's what they sold, of mezcal. And they would tell their stories. I would listen. So now I am growing different than any child in there because I know the cruelty of one man to the other. This is the man who came into my life. I was in the 5th grade, and he took me to an oil field. I told the story to Mr. Oyoque. He confirmed it. He found this. So for that part, I became credible to him. I was not fabricating. This man took me to the courthouse. Of what I learned from him, Nobody would benefit more than the United States government. I can go through any book, any court, any place. If you give me a volume number, I can follow the page and I can follow you in the corruption part. Okay. Mr. Brown was the very first member to land there. So anything he said, he was an attorney, land attorney, I learned. He would talk, I would listen. He blamed the Germans for all kinds of stuff in there. But I never knew until somebody told me that he had fought in France and saw what the Germans did to the French. So now he's now spying on them twice a year. He goes look for them. They're members of the Nazi Party. I will grow up different. I know the members of the Nazi Party because I was with him. Next one. In the government, I got recruited. I did not volunteer. I didn't do anyway. There's two major ways you're going to come into the United States government. Number one, you're going to fill a form called DD 1966. You're in the military. I did that. And I spent 38 years in it. The other one would be standard form 171. You're FBI. You work for NOAA. You work for Border Patrol. I worked for the government. I did not fill anything. You will never find any data on me on that. And OPM will not be taking care of me. But my DNA that they drew came at, I think Mr. Oyoque says 66%. I rejected that. And I was adamant, no, only one of my grandfathers is a foreigner. How can you be telling me that? I went through life. I retired. 3 or 4 years after I retired, I told the story to one of my cousins. And she says, well, I got your ancestry. Anyway, I saw this picture. We put it together. That's my cousin. That's me as a boy. This picture was taken October 1957. I was almost my father's height. I think 11 or 12 years old. This man was 6'5". Siraco was his father. Angelita was my grandmother. But I found something. It says that the cifra Cepeda, origen español, the DNA that the government took for me was accurate. So I just shut up my mouth and I said, that's what I am. I'm 60+%. This is my grandmother. She went to her grave with her memory intact. She was very tall and gutsy. And she would tell you stories about what she went after the Germans, and the Germans would start to run because they didn't want to kill that woman. Now here's where everything comes into play. This picture right here, I am a direct descendant because now we got Monterrey. I want to meet this man who made it. There's Goliath. Now, what I want to hear and find out is Monterrey. What I told Mr. Oyoque, what the Indians would talk about in El Gato. Now I can say, this is me. Right here in Mier, my grandfather was born there. Actually, we had a sequence. We had a sequence. Now, you left my grandfather out. My grandfather, we're missing. My grandfather was born here. His brother was born here. Next one. This is his brother. He was born in Monterrey, Nuevo León. Mexico. They settled down San Luis Potosí, Mexico. That's where they settled down. I still couldn't see it in my mind. How can I put it? Why did they go so far, Monterrey? And the map, I hope will come up, will indicate it. Now here it is. That's Goliath. This is the map. Monterrey. This is Zacatecas, where the priests came from. This is San Luis Potosí. But they all meet right there in the dot. So if you draw a circle there, most of the Karankawas are there. And my family was from San Luis Potosí, right there. They went back. They tried to come back. And they told them that everything had changed. So they stayed on the border of Texas. They stay right there. But my great-grandmother was having her family, so they were moving there. Like I mentioned, I know two histories, the Spanish history and the German history. This is the Spanish history. Un caso de refugiados. It's a case of refugees. The German history says they were dead. We no longer exist. We're exterminated in such a date, such a date. But yet, Mier says that, no, we had them, we brought them in, we took them further south, or they're scattered all over the place, but they took care of the refugees. This one right here, it tells you la fecha. In 1830, they started coming as a group. Now there's stragglers, or they come by one or two, but they no longer come as a group. This is my grandfather. This is the face I wanted. He was born in Mier. He's a tall guy. The thing is that the Karankawas cannot comb their hair. I can comb my hair because I have a lot of Spanish in me. So they cut it real short. Doug and I were talking about it. This is proof. The Catholic Church took this man and showed him how to go to the field and buy produce. And he did. Now he's a Mexican. Now he is like all the other ones. He doesn't go back into the woods. And he made a lot of money, but he was tall. He was a womanizer because of his height. My grandfather was Silvestre Urbano. That literature you have, I put it X. It indicates this hymn. The Catholics use this name. He was born in Mier, right on the border. There's proof of my family going down south into Mexico. This is a lady that was giving birth to all those people. They had 4 boys. Mier, Monterrey, and the other ones, I don't know where they had them, whether en route or in Mexico. We don't have no data on them, the other 2 boys. In the shadow, you can see top of the shoulder, there's the bed line, there's the shoe. You're 6 foot something, you got the long legs. And that's a negative for an 80-year-old man like me, because I cannot cut my toenails then. I had a lot of difficulty. This is my grandmother. I asked her what tribe she belonged. The only thing she told me was that her mother was real petite. But that's her brother. To me, the slimness of that thing, we are Cujanes. I'm going to show you photographs of a coco. Those are the only ones, 2 that I know. This is my mother. She was very tall. The clean teeth, everybody had them. And now I am retired, and I'm listening to a Mexican radio station. And it said that the Mexicans are losing their teeth because they don't eat tortillas like the old places. You take the corn, you put water, you boil it, and you add lime to it, and you eat the tortilla. Lime is calcium. So now they have a dental problem by eating flour tortillas in the store and everything. This, I have met people that tell me that they're this type of Indian, this type of Indian. I don't tell them, no, you're not. What I says, I believe you. And this is why. My sister is white. She married a white man, the Bayi family. They had 3 kids, one of them is a girl. This is my niece. They had 2 boys. One looks like she married a white man also. They had 2 boys. One looks like him, the other one looks like me. And he's taller than I am. He's taller than 6'3". He's 6'4". Everybody in that line is white, except this boy. And he can't comb his hair. His hair falls down. This is the other one. Guess they were in high school. This guy's 6'5", this guy's 6'3". This is a Coco. Different breed because of marriage. This is a Kuhan. Skinny legs and tall. It's me. This man is 6'5". He's a Kuhan. See his skinny legs? Tall, it's very slim. He lives in Monterrey, he lives in Reynosa. And he tells me that he is tall because his grandfather's Arab. They're Arabs in Mexico because of the Spaniards. The Arabs were in Spain. You go to the New World or you're going to die. So you see all the Spaniards with long beards. Now the Mexicans have mustaches real thick and hair in their chest. And they're Indian. So this is me when I was in high school. This man is from Saltillo. This is where the Catholics have their monasteries, and they trained the nuns and they trained the priests. I tell him the story. He wants me to go talk to his mother. I talked briefly from her, and he says, well, the Indians from up there, they don't have no hair. Well, how tall are they? They're about this tall. Man, he is from there. He is from Goliad area, and they brought him here. Well, they researched it. This is a Coco. He also comes to work there. I tell him that they're the real Americans, and all of them have responded, no, 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 I'm a Mexican. I'm from Mexico. In school, they teach them to be proud of who they are. This man right here, I don't know, he can't comb his hair either. I talked to him, and the thing he says, well, my girlfriend's here. Go tell my girlfriend. So her girlfriend shows up. She's black. She's good looking. She's educated. She's teaching for America in a school. He sees him. He likes him. He wants to marry him. And the man is not educated. So I don't know if that lady's in the right frame of mind, but he was born in Coahuila. So that circle, say 150 miles around Saltillo, that's where they all are now. Now, this man just came out of the mountain. So I used his photograph in a coffee place. They asked me to see the magazine. They wrote a story about us in Texas Highway. So I show him and says, well, you look Indian. He said, no, no, no. Yeah, I'm Spaniard. So I come up to him and he says, this is a real American. That's a Mexican. No. So I said, he's white and he's showing off. So I told him, this man doesn't know where South Padre Island is, that man does not know anything. He's just come out of the mountain. So I told him, if this man accompanies me to Asia, he will not fit. If a man goes to Africa, he will not fit. If he goes to Frankfurt, Germany, or Vienna, Austria, he will not fit. But if I take you with me, China, you will not fit. Go to Africa, you will not fit. You go to Europe, you'll melt into the crowd. I had a lot of duty in Europe. He got upset. So, yeah, come down, sit down. Wife told him. Everybody heard. Now everybody's mad at me. I'm a government man like no other man. This, ladies and gentlemen, I'm using your money to pay this man. I got 4 of them scattered all over the Arab world. And they report to me. I report to my boss. I paid him well. 10 o'clock, he has to be at the airport. I'm going to give him his packet for his pay. He will fly from there to his country of origin. All 4 of them. I paid all 4 of them. And his flight leaves at 12 o'clock. I will stay there. My flight leaves 2 o'clock. I go from Kuwait City to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Houston, Houston to El Paso. I come home, and I will never leave this country again. I've been to 48 out of them. This is what pertains my proof that I am a direct descendant, and there's the proof. They come from Rosario, from Zacatecas, College of Zacatecas, and they got the name. Friars Reyes returned to Zacatecas, Friar Jose Maria. Possibly one of these, of the people here, my family accompanied them, and we were saved. I'm here before you, it's because of somebody there. Somebody in that paperwork. They went back into Mexico and took my family with them. I am here. Oh, go back. There's to me, it was a funny part. My wife, she's always trying to mingle to what I want to present. He says, well, you already got it here. How come you use this? And the lady says that you don't need it. And I said, well, I'm a military man, and I can establish that they come from Zacatecas. I mean, yeah. And this indicates that it's heavy traffic on that road. So how many more like me were saved? I'm going to find out. I am going to the newspapers and tell my story. I am a direct descendant of those people, and I can prove it. That concludes my presentation, man. Anybody has any questions?
Does anybody have a question? Let's pass.
You don't need that. I'll put my teacher voice on.
All right, very good.
Go ahead.
First off, I'm the president of the South Texas Historical Association. So we were the first ones to bring the Karankawa story to life. In the textbooks and in history by different professors and all, they were extinct. And we opened their eyes. What's exciting now is that we have graduate students, archaeologists, and professors that are starting to research using what Ms. Gonzales had told us and showed us. And now it's becoming more, we're correcting history. And all I can say is these 2 guys are what made it possible. And that story is going to be told over and over. And the first thing I remember you telling me, you held up the paper and said you don't argue with the Catholic Church.
That's right.
Because he had all the Catholic records. It's just amazing to me how, as a historian, facts get bent, told by the winners, not the losers, that type of thing. And he's had the courage to come out with his group, and now it's starting to be taught in academia, and I am so proud. So proud.
Well,
Is there any idea how many people of Karankawa ancestry are still
can you hear?
in Texas?
What is it?
How many, is there a count of how many Karankawa ancestry
No,
is?
there's a young lady here, Love Sanchez. She did battle with an oil company. Everybody knows her. In March, I will be meeting with her. And the thing is that we don't want to make any change. The textbook says that we're cannibals and we're dirty and we're this and this. That's a falsehood. Okay? That's a falsehood. That once the cannibals, we're easy pickings for the people who have guns. And the Germans have guns. And their children right now got stacks and things because somebody's going to come and kill them. And that's just wrong. Nobody's. And I'm going to try to organize so we can slowly change. And more of them will come. But they need to be media attention. And I'm not into that. Carol, Mr. Oyoque, and Los Sanchez, they can go ahead and start finding somebody who's sympathetic to the Indians. Not everybody's sympathetic to us. Okay, some people don't like us. We tell a story, and they say, well, we're not like that. We didn't kill people. Well, Mr. Oyoque is going to partake, I think, in March over La Matanza. And we have photographs, we have pictures, and we have newspaper clippings where they say nobody saw anything. The Germans have the guns. The Mexicans don't have the guns, and they will not have a resupply of ammo. So they're doing it, but they deny it. But we got photographs.
There is an organization, the Alliance for Texas History, and they've got a few grad students who are working on trying to locate Karankawa descendants. And hopefully within the next year or so, we'll have a list to work with.
How many members do you have now from DNA that identify as Karankawa?
I'm sorry?
How many Karankawas do you have now identified, like through DNA, that you know about?
They won't take it. This people that I saw and the people at Walmart, no. I just want to work. I want to live. I want to eat.
Oh, they don't want to participate.
They don't want no organization or anything. You know, I got kids in school, and that's all I want. I want to work. But they're like this, very tall. They all have a pride in being Mexican. They teach them in school. So they have their identity, but they don't identify with Karankawas. I show them photographs. I show them the bows. Don't want no part. No part. Why are you so tall? My grandfather's French. My grandfather's Arab. My grandfather was German. So, but I am gonna, with other people, that I can't do it by myself. So,
There's a problem with the DNA is that I think it identifies you as Native American, but getting down to the tribes, I don't think the science is there yet. So that's a big stumbling block. For
Well,
the
he's
Karankawas.
already done his DNA through Baylor University, correct?
now they got a grant. I forgot the name. You remember the name who she got the grant? I show you his DNA group of Hector's. Anyway, we had a associate professor that won the claim, and she went to UT Austin and talked to this lady, and she went ahead and got with another professor out of UTSA San Antonio, and we met, both of us. So now they're going to draw DNA. Well, they did draw an A, but in the report, they only sent one, which is my cousin. And the strange part about it is that there's only 2 people on the database that got his DNA of the whole world. It has a database that feeds into He's the only one. But in there, she mentions it went corrupt. So one time I was in the VA clinic in Austin, and I told this man that's walking the dog, I said, well, I was a professor, I retired. He said, you're Karankawa, yeah. Well, I heard about you, all those countries you've been in, blah, 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 whatever. So I said, well, this is what happened. He said, well, UT Austin published the book. You're contradicting that. So be careful what you say. So I said, no, I'm not going to be careful. I am a Karankawa. I don't care if, I forgot, Carol Lipscomb or something like that was the man's name. So they did not give us the DNA.
You're absolutely right. The DNA hasn't advanced that far. But there's not enough subjects in study to begin to